This is the first of a couple of hominid timelines that I'd like you to have a look at. The other one I'll talk about later. But this one gives you another chronology, and it gives you years BP, or before present, years ago down the side here. Here it shows you a number of hominid species, and the gray bar indicates the duration of that species, how long it survived. The next one indicates something about the technology, the stone tools. You know their significance now in decoupling behavior from anatomy. Indicates something about the stone tools. The next one, a few indications of what's going on technologically and even ecologically, or in terms of their ecological adaptations. The next column tells you something about what's going on in the mind. As we said, or as I mentioned, we'll be going over what goes on in the mind as we look at Neanderthals. The rest of it is blank, and you can use that to make notes. This is just a basic background, just to get you a sort of context for the study of Neanderthals. Here you can see the Neanderthals as a species surviving for several 100,000 years off of these two lines. Now you can connect up the lines indicating these different hominids. Homo erectus, we know, survives or originates in Africa, but leaves Africa as early as 2 million years ago, and they populate the sub-Himalayan regions of the Old World. They go all the way east to Asia. They don't reach the Americas, nobody in the Americas until something like 20,000 years ago. But Homo erectus originates in Africa and then spreads out. And one of the varieties of Homo erectus essentially becomes cold adapted, as we'll see later in its physiology, and itself becomes Neanderthal. So you can draw a line from the end of erectus there, connecting up to Neanderthal, because that really is the source of the Neanderthals. And then you can draw another line connecting up Homo erectus with early Homo sapiens sapiens, or AMHSS. That's us. These two lines, you can draw them in there to connect up these hominids. Homo erectus is ancestral to anatomically Homo sapiens sapiens. That's us. They seem to be ancestral to us. You can make that connection. We leave that connection out in physical anthropology sometimes because we don't want to be appear to be too sure about anything. But for our purposes, it's quite clear that Homo erectus is ancestral to Homo sapiens sapiens. So those are, again, or this is again sort of a context, a biological context for these hominid species. I was saying the other day that, or a few minutes ago, that there were these bands or these geographical bands in Europe. This diagram comes from the Paleolithic Societies of Europe, a good book, but too detailed for our class. Or too technical for our class. This is Clive Gamble, a prominent prehistorian of Europe. This is Clive Gamble's reconstruction of some important ecological regions for the study of foraging peoples in Europe. You can see that he's got the Mediterranean sort of sealed off below that line. He's got the central alpine or massif, the elevated lands indicated here. And then he's got the lowland region also separated out. The subdivisions here indicate, well, this is the Alps, this is the southeast. There are a lot of rivers, there's a bit of a lowland, there are even rivers coming up from the Black Sea, the Danube, for example, up into the central heart of Europe. Iberia, or what we call Spain, this whole Iberian Peninsula itself, a sort of physiologically distinct region. There's even a series of mountains across here that sort of seal it off from the rest of Europe. So these are some sort of general regions that you can think about with regard to where did these hominids go? How did they sort of filter in here? They would have been moving with other plants and animals. They would have been colonizing this area, moving into areas, and their movements, of course, to a degree, would be conditioned by the lay of the land. So this diagram also quite useful.